Welcome to another edition of Client Success Stories. I'm Coach Jackson, and I'm here with another one of our Action Jackson Fitness Hall of Famers. This is John, and John, he absolutely crushed the program. I know I always say that, but he did. He didn't lose actually any weight, which is awesome, because what he did do was reduce his body fat percentage by 4.1%, and he also added on 4.6 pounds of lean mass. So lost body fat, added on muscle, absolutely looks killer. His photos are insane. John, you got the full ripped six pack. I mean, you're peeled to the gills, man. I mean, congratulations. And why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is John, based in Austin, Texas, and 31 years and some change now. So still young, I think, even though the face may give it away as potentially younger. But it was an exciting sort of year to kick off with this program. I'm super stoked for the results. It was definitely a journey, which I'm sure we'll dive into later today, but it's been nothing but good results and a good experience.
Yeah, well, you have a really interesting story, which is why I wanted to chat with you. Obviously, you look amazing, right? The abs, everything. I mean, you got the body. The physique is insane. You're talking about a top 1% physique is really what you have. I know we've talked about this before, but it's true. So yes, you have that, and let's set that aside though for now. But you also had an interesting journey, because with your journey specifically, you tend to be an extreme person. I'm an extreme person. I totally get this, but you wanted to kind of take it to an extreme level and kind of see what you could do, which I love. And we did that, and there's some pros and some cons of that. And we're going to talk through those as well. So a little bit of a teaser there, as we like to say in the biz, which we'll get to a little bit more towards the middle or the end of the conversation. But let's kind of start with where you began even before you started working with me. You obviously were in a pretty good spot. You weren't overweight or obese by any means. So why did you want to work with me specifically? Why did you want to work with a coach? Why did you want to make a change?
Yeah. So I've been, in fitness athletics since high school, doing sports, probably like a lot of folks, possibly who are watching this or who went to the program, right? We have some history of doing regular exercise. So the sort of catalyst to doing this, if we were to wind back, probably goes 2 years, and actually getting introduced to you through the tonal and the tonal program. So that's how I became familiar with you. But, I've been working out regularly, but I never had sort of combined all the factors together. So there was always, pretty rigorous, or at least regular exercise and fitness, trying to watch what I eat. At one point in time in college, it was super, macro tracking, calorie tracking, weighing, meal prepping, etc. So a lot of things that folks are watching this are probably familiar with, but I never, put those all together. And something about, thinking through 2024 and what I wanted to do in 2025, I thought, what would happen? What could the results be if I put it all together with coaching plus a regimented, workout movement program plus, the nutrition and the tracking. And that was what led me to your program.
Got it. And this is a bit of a common story we hear on these kinds of interviews, which is, have a lot of these skills, have a lot of the puzzle pieces, but don't know how to orchestrate them and kind of fit them all together. And I think that's a skill in itself, right? You could build the skill of macro tracking and build the skill of being able to push yourself and having intensity in your workouts, and build the skill of knowing how to leverage progressive overload, and build the skill of, and you keep going, but having a way of orchestrating all those things together is another skill in itself. I'll give you an example. At one point, I was $70,000, $999.97 in credit card debt, trying to build this online business. I had a lot of skills. I could get people on the phone with me. I could deliver pretty good programs for people and good results. I could, I knew how to get a little bit of attention. I was okay, not great, but okay on camera. I had a lot of skills, but I didn't know how to pull them all together. And finally, the last business coach I hired at that point was somebody who was like, okay, you have all these skills, you're in a really good spot. We just need to kind of get them together. And I didn't know what that looked like. He did. It was very helpful. Best $12,000 I ever spent. And I paid off that debt in 16 months after that, because I finally was able to kind of connect all these things. And then I was able to get attention, get somebody on the phone, get them to join my program, and then deliver great results and have them tell their friends. So it's just sometimes about orchestrating things and getting them all together. So for you, that was really the main goal, which is cool. But was there a moment or like an insight, or was there like a trigger? Like what was the point, or was there one, if there was, that you were like, I want to get some help with this, or I want to make a change, or I really got to do something? Was there a moment like that?
That's a good question. I don't think there's a single moment for me and my fitness journey. Fitness and sort of workouts, and we'll just call it results, has been one of the items in my life that I always feel like, you put in the effort and the time and the focus, you can produce a result, right? There's a lot of things in life where, you put in a lot of effort and energy, and sometimes they pan out, sometimes they don't. But exercise for me was one of those items where I really love, like, there's an input and there's an output, and usually that output is generally related to what you put in. And maybe it was just going through the first year of my 30s, or it's like, if now's the time to do it, now's the time to do it, while you still have youth and cartilage and things repair themselves. So that was, I think, a combination of factors rather than the one specific item.
Yeah, you definitely are one of the younger clients that we've worked with. Actually, surprisingly, I've worked with a few kids even in college. We even worked with a few high school kids who are like, kids of people who own tonals and such. So I have worked with some younger folks, but certainly on the younger end of some of the people that join our program. But that's what was so exciting about it, is that when you do have youth on your side, the results can come a lot faster, and you could really go pretty crazy. And that's how you're able to do things like reducing your body fat by 4% and adding on 4 pounds of muscle in the process in a very short period of time. So that's the fun thing about having age on your side. Well, in terms of like just this journey and the decision to kind of go on this, and the decision to kind of take it to the next level, if you will, I guess, what was that like in the beginning? So you start the program. Was there any hesitation initially to maybe even signing up, or any hesitation initially to like, do I really want to do this? Like, talk me through where your head was at with any possible potential hesitations you might have had.
Yeah, I think, in today's age, you can be bombarded with a lot of, I'll call them talking heads on social media and other resources, where it's, this fitness program or this coaching. So there's always, I think, a little hesitation, at least for me, when you're going into something that is focused on, right? Just making sure that, if you're putting your money in, you're getting a result out. I think obviously your association with Tonal lent credibility, which was a super big plus. But, there was an initial hesitation of just taking the plunge, right? It's a commitment in both time, energy, and resources. So that was the initial hesitation. But I had a great call with you, the initial call that you offered to everyone who's interested. And that, reassured me that I would be able to get out of this program what I wanted in terms of the coaching access, the form feedback, sort of, the nutrition, all the things. But I did sort of have oh crap, what did I get myself into, when Heather sent the meal plan guide, and then I saw what the macros were, and I was like, holy crap, how do I only eat 30 grams of carbs during a day? So I think, looking at some of those resources before I started, I was definitely maybe second guessing myself, especially because I was starting right before or right around the holiday season too.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think in any program that you get into, it could be a business coaching thing, it could be, it could be a relationship coaching program, or something. Anytime you get into something that's going to push you, that's going to take you to the next level, it's going to help you grow and get better, I think there should be kind of an oh shit moment in there. There should be kind of a moment where you go, oh my gosh, can I do this? Because if not, it's probably not going to push you. Now, a lot of people hear that and they go, oh my God, so you just cut carbs and then that'll solve the problem. It's not quite that easy. One of the reasons we do cut carbs in the beginning is because it just resets your body. That's one. Two, it's often easy because it helps see a visual and like a physical change really, really fast with people. So it builds a little momentum. But there's no magic to necessarily just cutting carbs. Obviously now and later on in your program, you had plenty of carbs and you're still very lean. You still have abs, all the rest. But it can help in the beginning of a program to help build a little momentum, a little trust, to make sure that you start seeing some success early. That's one of the reasons why we kind of do it. So a lot of it is more psychological, I'd say, for cutting the carbs than it is actual real physical. And I think if you looked at some data on this and you equated calories and protein, you'd probably find no difference between a higher carb or a lower carb group. At least that's what I believe. So you have a little bit of a, oh crap moment. What did I get myself into? But you just kind of get going anyway, right? So you start executing, you start doing stuff. What were some of maybe the challenges or obstacles, at least in the beginning, that you might have faced? How'd you overcome those?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, right, the program offers a lot of resources, both through coaching. There's the whole guide that we get. And for me, it was trying to figure out how do I fit this into just like my normal everyday work routine and social life. So I initially was, trying to do things very regimented by the book, not by the book, but, what you have found clients have had most success with, or a lot of success with, which was, exercising in the morning, exercising fasted, all those recommendations. And that was tough initially. And what I ultimately needed to figure out for myself was I need to find a routine that allows me to execute against these items, but in a way that fits my schedule and will consistently allow me to execute against these items. And that meant, instead of maybe working out first thing in the morning because of just how work was going that week, I would do it in the evening and just building a routine around that. I think that was a big challenging part of what's that routine, both from a meal prepping and planning perspective, thinking through how you're going to eat, where do you not fit in the exercises or the workouts, but how do you plan your day around it and being very intentional. That's something, quite frankly, sometimes I still struggle with as life goes on, as we've probably talked about in some of our coaching calls. But that was like one of the first, I think, bigger challenges, was just working this into your everyday routine.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing that you mentioned there, which is like, yes, you get some coaching, you get some direction, maybe you read a book, maybe you're actually working with somebody, but when you kind of get this information and they say, hey, this tends to work best for most people, that doesn't always mean it's going to work best for you. Does working out in the morning work best for most people? Yes, as a general statement. I can make that and feel very confident about that. And across the majority of clients that we worked with a few thousand people now. We have over 100 clients, active clients right now. The majority of those clients work out in the morning and find great success with that. Ever since I had, I didn't have the kid, but ever since me and my wife have had a child now, I found working out in the morning is definitely easier and better. But that doesn't mean it works that way for everybody. And you kind of have to figure out what's going to work for you. Like, I can give you direction. I can give you an idea. I can give you a best practice, but you have to then tweak it and adjust it for you to make sure it's going to work for your life and your lifestyle. So if it's not working out in the morning, if it's working out in lunch, over your lunch break, or if it's working out in the afternoon or the evening, great. Then we have to make those tweaks and adjustments, because it's about making something fit into your life and making sure you can do it consistently than just like working out in the morning because it's quote unquote supposed to be best. Like when I first started meditating, I remember I just spoke to a client about this. It's why it's on top of mind. It's like, yeah, typically you want to meditate for 20 minutes, but guess what? I couldn't meditate for 20 minutes every day because I just found myself not sticking to that commitment. So I lowered it to 5 minutes, which you might say, well, there's not as many benefits of doing only 5 minutes, but it got me to be consistent, fit it into my life. And then I was able to increase it over time once I had built the habit and kind of like got in a routine of doing it. So similarly with your exercise, like find the time of day that you're going to actually do it, not the quote unquote best time of day, and then stick with that. If you're not really a morning person, but you just find that mornings are just easiest for you to work out, then great, just work out in the morning anyway. Even if it's not going to be your best workout, like it's better to be consistent. But if mornings don't work and you find it to be in the afternoon or the evening, but also again, maybe it's not your favorite time to work out, but you can do it consistently, then do that. Whatever is going to be the time that you do it is the best. So that makes a lot of sense. It's a really great insight. were there other challenges or maybe obstacles that you faced, at least initially, before we kind of get to the point at which we went really extreme and took your body fat percentage all the way down to, I think we took it to 7%, something like that? 7-8%?
I think it was like low eights.
Okay, low eights. So yeah. we got down there for sure. So any other obstacles or challenges that you faced outside of just the fitting the workouts in and with work and everything else?
Yeah. I think a lot for me, Jackson, was mental and sort of just like trusting the process, as maybe woo-woo sometimes as that can sound when people say it. It was very much in the first month, phase one, trusting the process, right? We talked about the low carbs, and for me, it was less about, oh my gosh, I can't have carbs and that's going to be the magic success, but more about, I've eaten a lot of carbs. How do I switch, my macros during this time where it's a heavy fat diet, and what is that going to do to my health, or all those things, and just being able to, do that blind trust fall into the process, and to, you, Emily, Heather, you all are, rooting for me. This is a program rooted in success and client experience, not just something you've pulled out of your hat. That was a big sort of mental thing, just trusting the process and really embracing it full throated, right? Like, this is not a 2-week success story where, you do something for 2 weeks and then bam, you see the results. It's multiple months dedication and trying to build those muscles and just trust what you guys were offering me. And if, one of the things that I have enjoyed throughout this time is, whether it's you or Emily or Heather, you guys are also giving us sort of some of the science and the rationale behind things, not just do this to do this, and here's the why. And I think that helped build a lot of trust for me, or maybe just because I like dorking out with you guys on some of that background science stuff.
I think that's a really important point. And one of the things, me and my wife were on a 3-year IVF journey before we had our son. And one of the things we learned in that process, because we did switch doctors once, was the sort of necessity for you to advocate for yourself, the necessity to ask really intelligent questions, to try to find out that why and other things. So yes, you want to follow the process. You want to trust the process. You want to find somebody that you do trust and an expert, and you want to let them guide you, and you want to execute and do the things that they're kind of advising. But you got to still advocate for yourself. You still got to ask questions, and you want to find out the rationale and why they're doing things. Because if they tell you to do something and the reason is because, or they don't have a good rationale, or they can't explain it well, then you should really question that. And during our IVF journey, we didn't ask enough really good, intelligent questions because we were kind of naive, kind of ignorant, didn't really know. And that really bit us in the butt later on and cost us a hell of a lot of money, a hell of a lot of time, and a lot of emotional drain, because we didn't have success then early on, and we just didn't know the questions to ask. We didn't advocate for ourselves enough, and we just sort of blindly trusted. So I think really good point. Trust the process, execute, focus on the day-to-day things, yes, but make sure you're still advocating for yourself and asking intelligent questions and kind of getting that insight. And then be willing to take the risk and give a little faith and take a leap, yes, but only if there's sound science and rationale behind what you're doing. If it's just like, we've just been doing it this way and that's the way it is, that's not probably a good enough reason. But if they say, okay, this has really worked for a lot of our clients, here's some of the science behind, here's some of the thinking, here's maybe some of the psychology, here's what you should think about, and here's a couple of ways you can adjust that. That's a really good coach. That's somebody who knows what they're talking about and has enough insight that should be coaching you. So if your coach is not helping you in that way, huge red flags. So thank you for bringing up that point. The next thing we could talk about is, okay, so I'll give the numbers and we'll talk about some of the benefits, but then we'll talk about how we took it. So we got you to a point, you were absolutely peeled. You had the 6-pack abs. And again, the numbers, you lost 4.1% body fat. You lost 5.3 pounds of fat off your body, which is crazy because you didn't have a whole lot to begin with. You started with 15. We got you down to 10 pounds of fat on your body. And you ended up adding on 4.6 pounds of lean mass, which is incredible. So the physique, again, visually stunning. You look amazing, my friend. Really, really incredible. So congratulations on that. So we're about halfway through the program and you're looking awesome. how are you feeling at that point? Like, what's going on? How are you, like, mentally? How are you physically? Like, talk me through that halfway point.
Yeah. So, I think when we did the first DEXA scan, this would have been February, sort of as a check-in part way through. The results were great, right? You went through the results a couple times, so we don't need to dwell on that. So, it was a dual approach. And I think like that double-edged sword is maybe not as understood or as highlighted as much. And
it's certainly not talked about on social media, and
no,
it's not talked about in these types of interviews. But that's why I wanted to share your stories, because it's interesting.
Yeah, so physically I look great. I took a lot of mirror selfies, won't be afraid to say that. We had a call and you said, enjoy the time now, take all the pictures you want, because, this is a really good result you've been able to achieve. But, what I learned is it is difficult to maintain, right? There are trade-offs, and we've talked a lot about trade-offs in messages and coaching calls to maintain that level of, body fat when you're in single digits, to look that way. You can eat in a deficit for a while, but then you start getting hungry. And when you are at restaurants, right, you can't eat a lot of things. You just need to be very mindful about what you eat or what you've eaten that week. And, your energy is difficult. I got tired early in the day. I also noticed I got colder in the office as well. So there were a lot of trade-offs, I would say, in both, energy and overall sort of fatigue. It wasn't constant, but, you definitely notice it towards the end of the day. And there's some stuff too, in terms about sexual drive and other things like that I hadn't even thought would be impacting me, but were. So it was a double-edged sword because I look great. I was best shape of my life. Abs were popping, vascular, everything, all those things you see on social media. This was like no filters added. But, after those pictures are done, it's okay, here's what I'm eating and here's what I can't eat. And that, starts to weigh on you in terms of social life and interactions, and just being able to do things without thinking through, those trade-offs.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, for me, this is obviously my job. Fitness is my job. So whether it was fitness modeling, whether it was doing these things, like, it was my job to be at a very low body fat percentage. Obviously, you don't get paid to have a low body fat percentage. And the reason I wanted to share this is because I want to open people's eyes to, look, you wanted to kind of see what could happen. You wanted to see where your potential was. You wanted to take it as far as you could take it. I remember asking you, I said, we talked through some of the trade-offs, and I said, okay, well, here's some of the benefits. Here's some of the trade-offs. And you're like, hey, I want to try this because I want to see how far I can take it. And I might never be in this position again. And I think that's really fair. I think you never know how far you can go until you go too far, as the old saying is. And we wanted to see where that level was. So we went for it and did it. And again, you looked amazing, but it is a little bit more difficult to maintain. You have to really be careful about what you're eating, your energy, your mood sometimes, hunger, sexual drive. All of these things can be impacted because as you get lower and lower in body fat in single digits, again, if you're at 12%, 13, 14, 15%, I know those are great numbers to be very healthy and to be very fit and aesthetically look amazing. But once you get in a single digit body fat percentage, it becomes a lot tougher to maintain. I don't think I've had any clients that have been able to maintain single digits. We have lots of clients that wanted to see what it was like, but maintaining it, not so much. I'd say the lowest that many of our clients can maintain pretty reasonably is maybe 10%, but usually right around 11 or 12% is like a sweet spot. If you're pretty lean most of your life and you're around 11, 12%, you're looking amazing. Like, you could probably be on the cover of Men's Health like you look, but then also you have a little bit more energy, you have a little bit more room with macros, and you're not going to have the sort of slowdown that happens in single digits. So for years when I was at 5% body fat, and I literally did maintain it. I'm not joking. I have DEXA scans. I have all the stuff to show that I was at 5%. My wife would now, she's then my girlfriend would tell you I was a little bit moody. She would tell you I didn't sleep super well when I was at 5% all the time. She'll tell you that we would go out places and I wouldn't eat. She'll tell you now, she'll say, you never ate. I'm like, I don't know about that. Never ate. But according to her, I never ate. So when I was going through my week, I would fast until 2 p.m. I'd work out from 2 to 4, and then I have a post-workout shake. I'd have a big salad, and then I would have a pre-bed shake. That was all I ate all day. So you have to be pretty diligent if you want to maintain single-digit body fat, and there are drawbacks to it. I know it's sometimes a little trendy now, especially as fitness coaches. You have to understand as a fitness coach, again, if your income depends on you being in single digits or looking the best because you're going to book the shoots or the magazines or whatever, then they have a really strong incentive to look that way. And it's not always what you want your clients to look like. Again, you could take your clients to great levels and they could look amazing. And I think we have some of the most aesthetically pleasing, most ripped, shredded, jacked clients of anybody. Their clients are awesome, but most of them still get to a point where they can still maintain it and sustain it for a long period of time. And where we took you was obviously a level that was a little bit harder to sustain. So where are you at right now with your body fat, your mindset, your emotions? Like, how have you kind of shifted from the extreme?
Yeah. I think this was a really good learning experience, as you just talked about in terms of those trade-offs. For me, I think, staying in the single digits is probably, I've already decided, not something I want to do, but it is good to know that if I wanted to get back to that, right, I probably could, I could focus, we dial in a few things, put in the time and the effort, and it's there. So right now for me, it's more of optimizing is how do I maintain sort of the physique and look that I want, because there's some vanity in there that, I want, but allows me enough flexibility where, if I'm out with friends and we grab a drink, I'm not worrying about, is this 150 calories or 200 calories and this is going to like screw me up for the week, or, I can have maybe a couple extra chips and I won't beat myself up over it. So for me, it's more about right now finding that balance. I'm still at a very, lean state where I'm at. I've continued to gain lean muscle and strength, which has been great. But it's more about that balance and that sustainability, because I want something that I can sustain, not something where I swing to one extreme or the other, which I personally don't think is healthy for me.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I spent many, many years at roughly 5% body fat, and I think it took a toll on me, absolutely. And now I'm at 11.4% as my last DEXA scan. And it's a lot easier to maintain 11.4 when you were at 5% for so many years. So in retrospect and in comparison, it's like, holy cow, I have all this freedom to do all these things. Now, for other people who have higher body fat percentages, 11 might seem extreme too. But for me, it's something that I can sustain. I have good energy. I get better sleep. I do have sleep apnea, so I sleep with a CPAP every day. But I really feel great, and I feel like I have a good balance where I can have a dessert if I want every day. I can have pizza if I really want. Like, I can do these things, and of course, in moderation, and I can maintain where I'm currently at. I think it's so important as you're going on this journey. It's really fun and easy to use like the Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of analogy to like have a vision and be like, I want to get this crazy physique and I want to get single digit body fat and 6-pack abs and look like I could be on the cover of Men's Health. And that's fun. And I would encourage you to shoot for that and to hit that, because I think it's something that in your lifetime will be very, very, you'll learn a lot about yourself. And I think it'll be an exciting journey and it'll be pretty confidence building. But I think it's really important along the way to assess how you feel, how you look, how your hormones are, energy, all these things, to find out where is that balance point that I can really live at long term and feel like I look amazing, I feel great, but also like it's not too extreme for me in one direction or the other. So for me right now, and this will change over your lifetime, of course, but for me right now, it's right around 200 to 205 pounds, and it's at around 11%, 12% body fat. That for me right now is very sustainable, and I like where I'm at. For you, where do you think that balance is going to be?
I think it will probably be high singles digits, or, in the maybe 10, 11, if I can try to keep it that way. Truthfully, I'm probably still figuring out a little bit is like, what is that right balance? You mentioned it, those priorities and what you're sort of optimizing for at each time can change and fluctuate throughout life. I think the great thing, or what I've appreciated, is I have a better understanding now of the nutrition and the macros, and how even eating at a deficit, you do need certain macros to help fill you out and make you look a little more vascular. It's not all about just only eating this or only eating that. So I feel like I have a lot more of the toolkits. But yeah, it's probably being a little bit more comfortable with another % or 2 of body fat, if that means I get more flexibility. But like I said, one of the things I'm super excited about is, and I may do this later this year, is come back and say, hey, I want to cut down and try to go back here, because I'm a masochist sometimes. I like the mental challenge. And then, we do it, but I feel like I have the toolkits, and I know those trade-offs, and I know what it's going to take. And I don't think I had a good understanding of that before, but I do now, which I'm super appreciative of.
It's been a hell of a journey, man. And I've been really impressed by your kind of like thirst for knowledge and education. We've had a lot of conversations about whether it's trade-offs in education and understanding and kind of learning. You've been a wonderful person to work with. It's been a true honor, and it's been a true privilege to work with you. I just want to kind of make sure I acknowledge you and your journey and all the discipline, the dedication, the commitment that you've had. I've helped people lose 100 pounds, but one of the most fun things for me to do is to help people like you kind of put these puzzle pieces together and really take the physique to the next level and kind of see what your potential is. Because I saw what my potential was, and that was amazing, and I enjoy it, and I have the photos and all that, and it was fun. But now my joy really and fulfillment comes from helping other people kind of see what their potential could be and where they can take it. And it's really always just incredible to see and to hear the stories of like, I can't believe that I have this kind of definition of these abs, or man, I went to this pool party and people were like, oh my God, you look insane. Was there a couple of moments that you had like that?
Yeah. I mean, I can think of a couple, several moments where, probably at the peak of things, as I was figuring out there are trade-offs to things, where, I partner with people who be like, wow, like I can really see your lower abs pop and like your veins and all that, all the stuff that, you easily see or, get thrown in your face on social media. It was like, it was all there, and it was really cool. A little freaky too at the same time, to be a little frank. But yeah, I definitely had some of those moments where, it was a nice there was a nice validation exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, look, I want to be respectful of your time, but I really do appreciate all the insights. Are there any other lessons, insights, takeaways that you want to make sure that we share, whether they're positive about some of the benefits and the journey and overcoming obstacles, or even about some of the like finding that balance and seeing where the right spot is for somebody?
Yeah. I would say like if, folks are in the program or thinking about joining the program, first and foremost, like you, Emily, Heather, I don't think I've fully understood or rationalized or internalized, like you guys are available and you do want to help. Like, I wish I had reached out a little earlier on some things. The whole, your mantra about don't suffer in silence is not just a mantra. Like you guys are there to help. So, reach out. I think that's one of the benefits of this program. So that's one thing I want to plug. And the second thing I would say is, thinking back about it now, like you said, shoot for, that ultimate goal. But I'd also say, don't be afraid to, adjust as you go through. If you realize some of the trade-offs are like push yourself, yes. But ideally you want this to be something that you can sustain outside to build that healthy lifestyle. And that means you need to be able to do it repeatedly and repeatedly. And that's not going to be something if you really hate it and, this isn't your job to look like this 24/7 because you're, running a business and doing modeling and a coach, et cetera. We all have lives outside of it. So think through those trade-offs, hold yourself accountable, but, maybe single digits isn't for everyone, and that's okay.
Yeah, well, a couple of things I'll kind of add there and touch on is like if you have a favorite influencer or a favorite YouTube star or something, and not to say everybody's doing this, but if they're maintaining single digits and they're like 7% and they feel great and they're looking great and all those things, and they're still at 7% and there's no kind of like seems like downside to their lifestyle, that's probably a big red flag that they're probably on some type of performance enhancing drugs and they're probably taking something, because that's pretty much the only way that you're going to be able to. And even then, when you get to certain extremes, it's still bodybuilders, physique athletes, people who do this stuff professionally and are on a ton of PEDs. Even they don't feel typically great when they get on stage. There's the old kind of adage or mantra that the worse you typically feel, the better you look. Now, again, this is at extreme levels. So if you're sitting there and you're at 20% body fat and you just want to get abs, or you're at 30% body fat and you want to get abs or a six pack, you don't have to worry about this. But if you have a six pack and you're dialed and you want to get even more diced and you want to get to single digits, that's when these kinds of extremes start to come into place. But when I would get ready for a modeling shoot, whether it was Men's Health or Muscle and Fitness or Nike, ESPN, all these kind of companies I worked with, the better I looked, usually the worse I felt. And there was one shoot that I prepared for like 2 weeks, and it was crazy. And I wanted to see how far I could take it, kind of like you. Like I'm kind of can be a masochist myself. And I was like, I want to see how far I could take this. And I remember sitting in a sauna the day before the shoot, and I couldn't sweat. I was in there for 30 minutes and I didn't sweat at all. And I thought, okay, this is about as far as I could take it. And I looked amazing. And the photos are absolutely like gnarly how lean I was and how ripped I was. But I felt absolutely horrible during that shoot. It was really tough to get through. And I literally thought I was going to pass out several times. So that's kind of, again, a very extreme trade-off that can happen. And if you are seeing somebody and they're at 7% and they seem like great, I'd wonder if they were possibly on something, because you do feel really tough when you get down to those levels. The other thing is that if you want to work with a coach or you're interested in working with somebody, make sure that the person that you're going to be working with is actually available and there to help. Because a lot of times you see this, especially these days, which is like, I post on social media, I do all these things, but you're never going to hear from me once you get into the program. That's just not a good look, and that's not how we like to operate and do things. So make sure that if there's an expert that you follow or somebody that you like their advice, or you've read their book, or you've watched their videos, like make sure you're actually going to get some type of access to that person, and you're not just going to get handed off to somebody else, which is not what we want to do in our program. I make sure I'm very involved still, because I want to help people. And typically people come in for me. So we have great staff, we have incredible resources and people that help, but I want to make sure that I'm always available, because, I think that's important. And the last thing I kind of want to mention or touch on is just finding what that balance point is for you. Because a lot of times I'll have people that come into the program and they'll say, Jackson, I want to get six pack abs and single digit body fat, and I want to take this, to the extreme. Or for some of the female clients, they'll be like, I want 18% body fat and I want to be able to see the striations of my glutes. It's like, okay, cool. Maybe you want to do that, but also maybe you don't. Maybe that we shoot for that as the goal and we start with that as a goal, but let's set up some milestones along the way. And maybe you get to a point where you're at 15% body fat and you're like, I've come down from 20. I feel great. I look great. I really like the way my clothes are fitting. My energy's awesome. And I'm super confident now. Awesome. Then probably that's a good place to stay. Now, if you're an extremist like me or like you, and you tend to want to always take it to the next level, yeah, maybe you push for it and find out where that balance is. But I think it's important to reassess along the way of the journey. And I'll share this kind of quick little story, which is my mentor. I think I talked about it. I was $70,000 in debt. I hired this coach, helped me fit the puzzle pieces together, and my business took off after that. Now that guy, he at one point still might be, not sure, was making $1 to $1.5 million a month in his business. $1.5 million per month. That's insane. Now, watching this, you start thinking, oh, wow, maybe I can do that too. And certainly that thought's come across my mind. But then I saw the toll that it took on him and what was required to get there, and the team and how many people and just everything. And I go, I don't think that's for me. Now, that's not to say that You can't get to 1.5 or $1 million a month without that kind of headache and turmoil and struggle. But also, probably most of the people who are getting to that level are probably going through a high stress thing. Like I remember at one point, like his hair was falling out, and it's like, that's pretty extreme. I don't know if I want to take it to that point. So for us, you know, I love growing the business. I love helping lots of people. I want to scale and grow the company, but not to the point where we have a staff of 100 people and I don't even know clients that are going through the program, and I'm so disconnected from everything and my hair starts falling out. That's just not the level I want to take it to. And better to be intentional with your decisions and strategic and like know where that point is for you than to always like dream and wish of doing it, but then never actually follow through, right? Like better to be like, I'd rather have 15% body fat and be really happy with it, or just lose 20 pounds and be happy with it, than always dream of getting 6-pack abs, but like just always hate the process and the struggle. You have to kind of love the process of going through this stuff. That's why I'm able to maintain where I'm at. That's obviously why you've been able to maintain your amazing physique, is because we love the process. We love the working out. We love those kinds of things. And that's kind of what brings joy into the journey. And if you don't enjoy the journey, it's going to be a tough go for you. So, John, want to say thank you, my friend. Last quick question here is like, was this all worth it? Like, I mean, there's highs, there's lows, there's good things, there's bad things. Was it worth it in the end?
Yes. Yeah. 100%, you know, being able to put those puzzle pieces and like we've talked about, show what you can if you're super dedicated. That journey, highs and lows regardless, or the lows regardless, 100% worth it. Walking out here, walking away a lot more informed and just more knowledgeable. And to me, that's a big win. Besides looking better too.
Yeah. I mean, you look fantastic. But it's been a real pleasure and an honor to work with you, my friend. You've put in so much effort, dedication. Again, you've obviously made a tremendous, incredible transformation, getting so lean and as ripped as you did. And what I'll tell you is that, I mean, I think that we've only had maybe 2 or 3 clients that have ever gotten leaner than you. And I've worked with thousands of people now. So you're in like the top maybe 5 of the most lean, ripped, shredded guys that I've ever worked with. So I don't know if that means anything to you, but that's certainly a trophy on the mantle.
Yes, but I'll take it.
It's been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much. And everyone listen out there, you've heard them. Action is the difference. So take action. And that's going to be the difference between dreaming and succeeding.